And so we have come to December, the 12th and final month, the threshold of winter, the crowning of the year. December is the season of waiting, waiting as the darkness descends, waiting as the world grows chill, waiting for the holidays, waiting for the waning year to end and a new one to be born, waiting for a new beginning, bright and fresh with promise. Throughout our lives, we share the universal experience of waiting, waiting to be born, waiting as an infant to be fed or comforted, waiting for the letter in the mail, for the stoplight to change, waiting in line for the checkout or the service window. It's a fact of life. We learn to wait. As a child, I remember waiting for Christmas. It seemed to take forever to arrive, and that was even in those years before the decorations started going up in October, September, August. I grew up in a very Catholic home and community, and so along with watching toy advertisements, making my lists and checking them twice, there were the rituals of Advent. A cardboard Advent calendar with a tiny door for each day of the waiting period, an Advent wreath with the ritual of lighting 1, then 2, then 3 or 4 candles to mark the time. Advent calendars have not changed much since my childhood, although the one I was given a few years ago held treats for my dog, with the same little cardboard doors to open to mark the time of waiting for the arrival of the big day when all wishes will be fulfilled, or so we might hope. The season of Advent in the Christian calendar is a time to prepare for the coming of the Messiah, the one who will lead us to the perfection of the world. And in Christian tradition, this season is a time to prepare our hearts and align our spirits to celebrate and reenact the birth of the Jewish prophet and teacher Jesus, who brought a message of divine love, the promise of peace and justice and righteousness to a troubled world. Mid-December brings the Scandinavian festival of Santa Lucia, honoring the return of light as girls process with wreaths of candles on their heads, symbolizing hope and kindness. The Jewish festival, Hanukkah, which begins in 2 weeks, celebrates the victory over oppression and the miracle of light as one day's supply of sacred oil burned for 8 days, pushing back the darkness in a time of devastation. Earth-centered faiths celebrate the winter solstice on December 21st as the earth cycles through the longest night, and we welcome the sun's return with bonfires and light displays symbolizing renewed light and life. And at the end of the month, we honor Kwanzaa, an African-American holiday celebrating heritage, family, and community, marked by the lighting, the 7 candles of the Kinara. No matter what our theological perspective or faith tradition, this winter time is deeply connected to the natural cycles of the earth, a time of waiting as we approach the winter solstice, the longest night on the threshold of the winter season with all its harsh beauty. Our midwinter celebrations speak to the innately human struggle to ward off a sense of despair in the darkness, despair at the violence and pain we see around us. We await the birth of hope, the miracle of light, the relief which has been promised, the fulfillment of all wishes, the expectation and preparation for the healing of the world. There are, of course, a variety of ways to pass the waiting time. We might choose simply to sit and wait, believing that the power to heal the world lies beyond our control, trusting that if we are simply patient, deliverance will come from an invisible and all-powerful divine hand, reaching down to work miracles in the world. I, however, tend to agree with something I once heard a theologian say, that the divine, however we name it, does have hands, but they are the ones at the ends of our very human arms. This is called human agency, the belief that if peace and justice and righteousness are to come to the world, it is up to us humans to make it happen. Creating peace and justice and righteousness is an extraordinary thing to do. Author E.B. White once said in an interview, "If the world were merely seductive, that would be easy. If the world were merely challenging, that would be no problem. But I wake up each morning torn between a desire to improve the world and a desire to enjoy the world. This makes it very hard to plan the day." White's words are often misquoted and even are often quoted and more often misquoted to add more alliteration, saying, I wake up each morning torn between a desire to save the world and a desire to savor the world. This makes it very hard to plan the day. I think many of us struggle with the same planning challenge in our days. I actually had a dream last night. I just remembered this. I just had a dream last night where I was in a place that was just beautiful, and I just wanted to sit and enjoy it, but there were people waiting for me to go do things, so I couldn't. That's that right? I'm supposed to be doing things. I want to just enjoy this beautiful space. Should we simply sit back and wait for someone else to solve the problems while we enjoy the world, or should we roll up our sleeves and put our effort into the improvement or maybe the salvation of the world? That is the essential challenge of the season of Advent and Hanukkah, this time of darkness when we await the healing of the world. Do we wait passively for the Messiah, the Savior? Do we wait passively for the miracle of the oil to extend the light? Do we wait for someone to come and make things right, for a divine force to work a miracle as we make it through this time? Or do we work as we wait actively for that improvement in the world, investing our own commitment and effort to create the changes we want to see on this planet we inhabit? I love this midwinter time of waiting. As the power of the sun fades, the days grow colder and the nights grow longer. And I appreciate the rich traditions of faith, even as my personal theology is earth-centered. My sense of divinity is in the cellular structures of life, and my sacred spiritual practice is the cultivation of the earth, caring for her green and growing children, and deep work is integral to my practice. In the fall, as the darkness grows, I prepare the beds, mulch and trim and dig, burying daffodil and crocus bulbs in the damp, dark earth, so they emerge months later as bright harbingers of spring. I trim back old stems on the woody plants to clear the way so that new growth may flourish. My theology relies on my human agency to support the power of life, doing the necessary deep work in the dark season to prepare for the return of the light. This time of darkness is not about waiting passively for a miracle from the heavens, but about the deep work of creation, of clearing, of preparing the seedbed of germination and gestation, a time to create the conditions for the transformation of ourselves and the world. To paraphrase the words of Mennonite writer Shannon W. Dicus, quote, we categorize experiences of waiting, unknowing, confusion, as seasons of darkness. Anytime we cannot see and control our spheres, we name it dark and separate it from the reach of the divine. But the winter tree hangs naked for months, and pregnant bellies protrude gradually. And as the story goes, the Magi traveled for months following the star to find the newborn child. That time was not wasted. Between daylights, divine work endures. What if we're free enough to do the same? End quote. What if we are free enough in this time between daylights to prepare for the future, to use the fertile resources of unknowing and confusion to release the fetters of the past and allow new seeds to germinate and new life to grow until it is ready to be born? This time of waiting can reawaken our power of human agency, our conviction that if peace, justice, and righteousness are to come to the world, if our communities of faith are to welcome all those who seek the experience of belonging, it is up to us to make it happen. Creating peace and justice and righteousness, mobilizing our human agency to push back the forces of hate and destruction, to bring the power of transformation, perhaps to create a powerful and welcoming community of faith, is an extraordinary thing to do. In this time of darkness, as we await the light, we can choose to do the extraordinary thing, to become living symbols of our faith. I've been known to raise the question, how does my life, or our shared life as a congregation, relate to being Unitarian Universalist? And I've come to understand that Unitarian Universalist is more than a label or a brand. For me, Unitarian Universalism is a powerful and compelling presence in the world, a call to transformation, a spiritual commitment, and a life path. This faith tradition, this heretical, questioning, challenging religion, beyond a single doctrine or belief, is for me much more than a category. It is an identity, a way of religion that unites us in shared purpose and supports us in our lives. Being part of a UU congregation is a privilege and a commitment to travel the path of personal and collective transformation, working together to create a world centered in the power of love. Unitarian Universalism is manifest in the wide variety of specific UU congregations in this nation and the world. There are UUs who identify with the tradition but do not connect to a congregation, and that's fine. But the power of our faith movement arises when we join our individual hearts and voices to bring something both eternal and new into the world. We are the light we seek to dispel the darkness as the world transforms. This UU congregation continues to move through its own complex transition, gathering in a new space, welcoming newcomers every week, understanding our unity and diversity in new ways. This is all happening in a time when the entire world is in transition, with a new generation coming of age in the midst of crucial challenges to human well-being and human rights, challenges to democratic governance, to the integrity of the climate, challenges to the ultimate viability of the planet and the lives we have created in the contemporary world. Congregational life in times of transition has to do fundamentally with cultivating and sharing leadership, engaging and renewing each member's engagement and commitment in the midst of global and generational change. This applies to each and all of us, not just those in elected and appointed positions, since we all share in the privilege and responsibility of creating community. Robert Quinn, author of the book Building the Bridge as You Walk on It, describes what he calls fundamental leadership, as he says, quote, "In fundamental leadership, we become more purpose-centered, internally driven, other-focused, and externally open, less comfort-centered and more purpose-centered. We stop asking, what do I want? Instead, we ask, what result do I want to create? As we begin to pursue purpose in the face of uncertainty, we gain hope and energy. We feel more integrity. We feel more whole. As our sense of achievement and integrity increases, we feel more secure, more willing to put the common good ahead of the preservation of self. As we feel better about ourselves, we become more transparent and authentic. Our relationships increase in meaning, trust, and caring. With increased achievement, integrity, and affiliation, we increase in our confidence to learn our way forward in an uncertain and changing world. We are better able to embrace the truth of the dynamic world. When we do this, we learn and adapt. We begin to attract new flows of energy. We become more fully alive. In the state of increased integrity, courage, and energy, we are leading in the most powerful way possible. We have a purpose, a message, and we are living symbols of that purpose. In this time of waiting, we have the opportunity to deepen and shift into the power of fundamental leadership as we are grounded in the core values of our liberal faith. This is a time to ask the central questions of purpose and meaning, our reason for being, our shared vision. This is the time to discover how we may become a living symbol of Unitarian Universalism in this community and in the world. Now is the time to look inside our own hearts, the time to turn to one another and to ask, what result do we want to create? What do we seek as we find the courage to move into an uncertain journey to a new way of being? To live a life of faithful commitment means being open to the possibility of deep change within ourselves, open to moving into a state of fundamental leadership in which we become more purpose-centered, internally driven, other-focused, externally open. I believe there are UU faith challenges and calls us all to move forward toward a state of fundamental leadership, toward sharing responsibility to heal the world, to a community of commitment, a community of faith, a community of transformation. Creating a community of commitment and transformation is an extraordinary thing to do. There is a new energy rising around us in the season of anticipation. Around us, we see public demonstrations and training and strategies to resist oppression, historic community partnerships strengthened, and new partnerships and collaborations arising. These initiatives continue to be created and reinforced with expanding opportunities for participation and leadership from UU faith communities. We have the opportunity to support these new energies in our congregational life. How do we affirm and promote the values of human dignity and worthiness for all people in a society that is based on exploitation and exclusion for so many? How do we live into the value of pluralism in a society that judges and oppresses, imprisons, or deports so many people based on their identity, their race, their gender identity, on both viable and invisible differences, on both visible and invisible differences and disabilities, denying their basic humanity? How do we live into interdependence when the forces of profit and greed are wreaking havoc on the planet, on our land and water and air, taking us down a path toward ecological collapse? As the world makes its way toward the rebirth of the light, there is deep and productive work for us to do in the waiting time, finding our own spiritual center in this amazing faith tradition. In this congregation, there is important work of preparation happening behind the scenes to prepare for new energy rising, new opportunities to cultivate and to practice the work of fundamental leadership in all our varied and diverse ways of being. I wish for us each and all in this deep and productive time that we tap into our own sources of hope and energy, of meaning, trust, and caring, as we experience the power of our achievement and integrity, bringing the power of light into the world. The hymn, O Come Emmanuel, with words adapted to our Unitarian Universalist theology, invites the light of wisdom, vision, peace, hope, and love, the power that supports our human agency to co-create the transformation of the world as we move through this time of waiting and turn toward the light.